Do you need to know this or no?
No, so that you do.
Okay.
It's time.
Okay, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Tracy City Council for Monday, October 22nd. Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have 4. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thanks. It's my pleasure today to open today's meeting with Bible verse and with prayer. This is Psalm chapter 106. It says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Who can proclaim the mighty acts of the Lord or fully declare his praise? Blessed are those who maintain justice and who constantly do what is right." Father, we pray that this team of leaders from our community would have wisdom, that they would be constantly doing what is right. We pray for not just the meeting here tonight, but for our entire city. And we pray for safety, we pray for prosperity, and we pray that your hand would guide us in knowing what the right things to do and the wrong things to do are. So we pray your wisdom and your guidance over this meeting tonight in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you all get a chance to read the minutes from October 8th.
Motion to approve the minutes.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have approval of the agenda as it is written?
There's no additions.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anybody have any conflicts with our agenda or anything? Okay. Anybody from the public like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Hearing none. Our public hearing is scheduled for 6:45, so if you guys don't mind, we will let Chris do his things first so that he can leave.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Couple of hopefully quick things. For phase 2, we have a, well, I'll just go in order of the agenda, I guess. Change order for, we'd like to swap out the top section of one of the control structures. Basically right now it's in the center dike between 2 of the pond cells, and it's a big 48-inch structure. And if it went in with the big 48-inch on the top, it would get a little narrow on the access road, so we'd like to swap out that top section with a cone. So then at the surface, it's a lot narrower and it can be offset outside the road. So there won't be quite a pinch point on the access road. So to swap out that top section, we got a price from Reiner for just over $4,000 for that. So that would be processed as change order number 3. And if you approved it, we would recommend doing it contingent upon rural development approval, but we would expect we could get that before the next meeting, and instead of having to run it through them first and then wait 2 weeks before we can give the contractor the go-ahead, if you guys could give the go-ahead on that. And then we did get a request for extension from Reiner. They included all kinds of backup information. We got it middle of last week, so I haven't had a chance to go through it in detail. But I mean, we have gotten a lot of rain this year, so we'll look through it and review it and run that through rural development. But just so you're aware, they'll be asking for a July 26, 2019 substantial completion and an August 30th, 2019 final completion. Their goal is still to get all construction done this year, but the leak test for the ponds takes 30 days, and for the amount of water that they have to, or up to 30 days, and there's 3 different cells. and the amount of water they need, transferring and everything. MPCA does not allow a test to start after October 15th, so they're not able to get them tested this year. So they won't be able to even start the test until weather permits next year, and then assuming that, you know, they have to be run consecutively. They don't want to be in a position where they ask for an extension now and put too tight of handcuffs on themselves and then have to be coming back to ask for another extension next year. So construction should be done, it's just that they're not able to do the testing until spring, so they're asking for July 26, 2019. That's more of an FYI. We need to comb through their supporting documentation, but I don't think there's, you know, I don't think we'll be denying any extension. It's just we'll have to look through as if what they're asking is reasonable for that amount. So that's just a heads up. And then the last thing on phase 2 is there would be resolution, let's see, 2018-57, pay app number 8. You can tell how little they've been able to get done the last month or so, because it's only for about $35,000, and previous months it's been over $500,000. So that kind of represents how much they've been able to get done the last month. So maybe we'll just stop it there and see if there's any questions on phase 2 stuff.
The first box that you were talking about, is that just a metal box, or is it like, is it on
It's like a concrete manhole, but it's a control structure out at the pond. So it's one of, I think, 4 structures. Yeah, 4 structures that are at least immediately adjacent to, or they actually have valves inside of them. So you open or raise or lower to be able to move water from one pond cell to another, or direct incoming flow to one cell or another. So it's just one of the structures, and the very top barrel of it, so it's buried. And this top barrel, we would just give it a different shape, so it'd be more like a traditional sanitary manhole, where the top section, it's 48 inches wide, most of the manhole, but then the top, it kind of necks down, and then there's just the manhole for access. And by doing that, it doesn't eat into the access road. That's why we want to swap it out.
The simple version is it tapers the hole over, so when they're driving down that access path, a public works vehicle doesn't try to avoid it and then potentially
Right.
wind up in the pond. It's as much a safety issue as anything.
It's happened.
So yeah, this will get it outside the road entirely. Actually, the manhole cover would be like in the pond bank.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yep.
So that would be, do you want a potential motion on that for 10D, or do you want to wait until it comes up later?
What do you need?
We would like a motion approving change order 3 in the amount of $4,348.73 to modify the top section of structure CS4 contingent upon rural development approval. That way you're not sticking your necks out. You know, if RD for whatever reason says no, then your approval is contingent upon them
I'd
saying
make that
okay.
as a motion.
I'll second that.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Then I think the other motion on phase 2 would be the approval of pay app 8 for Reiner for $35,000. I guess I gave you the originals, Chris, but it was $35,000, and
And I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2018-57, payment to Reiner for $35,000.
$35,154.02. Okay.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I think the next thing from you would be 12B, which would be calling for a hearing on proposed assessments. This would be for State Street. That was that one block that we added to redo the surface. Basically, we added subdrain. Just to close the loop on the assessment process, we need to have the assessment hearing for those 4 properties, one of which is O'Brien Court city property. So we'd call the hearing to be on November 12th. I think I put 6:45. I don't know if there's another hearing or anything, but 6:45. So we sent the newspaper notice to Seth today, so it should be able to get in the paper, and then we'll take care of the mailed notices as well.
You know what, my dear? We changed the council meeting to the 13th.
Oh.
Because of Veterans Day.
Oh, Veterans Day.
So it's-
That works for me, and I think,
okay?
How about you, Seth? Does that work for you?
Can you change it
Can you
quick?
change it?
Can change the notice
Okay.
okay,
to what date now?
13th.
just the next day. That should, oh, because the 11th is a Sunday, yeah, okay. That works for me too.
Do we have a proposed assessment for that project?
Yeah, and they ended up not, that was the one where we peeled off the bituminous and we didn't know what condition the
Yeah.
base, and the base was in pretty good shape, so the total scope, I think everyone's assessment went down by a few $100 than what was proposed. Here we go. So the, and except for O'Brien Court, the other three properties are corner lots, so they got that reduction in accessible footage because it's their side yard. So 401 and 401 State Street and 206 3rd Street East, their assessment would be $2,411. 407 State Street would be $26.89, and then O'Brien Court, 410 State Street is $63.99. And those are all down a few $100 than what was presented at the improvement hearing.
And that's based, that assessment is based on the 25% of the total
Yes.
cost?
Yep.
And it's spread out as a per foot,
Yep,
not as a
and
split like we've been doing?
right, and we could certainly revisit that. You could still call for the hearing tonight, but if we
Right.
want to revisit that methodology, I think on this project particularly, because the city owns one of them, it's more beneficial to those property owners to do it by the footage.
And I think that's the reason I brought it up. You know,
Yep.
I don't want to set another precedence, but I think it helps share the burden of the taxpayers a little better that way. So we just need to make sure when we do the hearing that that's mentioned.
Yep, yep. If they weren't corner lots, they got a big reduction because they're corner lots and their frontage is on not State Street.
I'd make a motion then for a resolution 2018-56 for the hearing on the proposed assessments for the 13th of November at 6:45.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then resolutions 58 and 59 are related to Phase 3A. I'm just getting the assessment process going for that. So as part of that, you need to do a feasibility report and then have an improvement hearing. The report, we've done the PER, so all the guts, that's done. It's just going to be a cover letter that has some required language per statute, and then the improvement hearing is when it'd be everybody's first chance to kind of speak about the project, all the affected property owners. So I think we proposed November 26th for that hearing. As part of, usually it's included in the feasibility study. It's not required to be, but at the improvement hearing, the city needs to provide an estimated assessment roll, a preliminary assessment roll. So that, to your question earlier, Tony, about the methodology, I guess we'd like some guidance if we should do it the way we did on Phase 1, that methodology, or the methodology that I think is still technically policy. I don't know if policy was ever formally changed for Phase 1, or if we should calculate that roll similar to phase one, where it was more evenly.
Yeah, I think, and it's just my opinion, I think we agreed on in phase one to spread it out equally amongst all the affected property owners. I think that reduces our opportunity for litigation, depending upon how it pans out. I mean, it's, keep it as reasonable as we can, so. I don't know if I should figure it both ways and, or just do it, just even split, but.
But we could do it both ways, and then last time a committee was,
Right.
we had that conference call.
Yep.
Yep. We could figure it both ways, and then the committee
The
could
committee look at it and make the decision. I think
bring a
that'd be the
recommendation to a council, yeah. I don't know that we would, I'm looking at Andy, because he'll be chugging a lot of the numbers, but maybe for the next meeting, council meeting, we could have something. Otherwise, at the hearing, it's just, we could present it. We'll shoot for the next meeting to have both options, and you can see.
best. And we don't really have to have anything set in stone until the final assessment hearing, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, it's just a preliminary estimate
Right.
for the improvement hearing, yep. It would be good to have it established before construction.
Right.
Yeah, just to put people at ease and not asking the guy running the backhoe how much he's getting assessed, because he doesn't know.
But, and you could set that even after the hearing, couldn't you?
Yeah, so this first hearing is the improvement hearing.
Right.
And then the assessment hearing, we usually like to do it before construction starts, but it doesn't have to be. We've done them after construction, for example, State Street, because we knew either way we were gonna do the project, so, yeah.
I better quit talking, it's time for a public hearing.
Okay, Chris, does that take care of you?
So those two resolutions, and then the other thing related to Phase 3A is last time I was here, I talked about Empire having trouble getting people to schedule their appointments. After that discussion, there was a flurry, and they got, I think, a day's worth of appointments scheduled, but then it kind of dropped off again. City ordinance does have a provision for basically a surcharge for not granting access for inspections. And for single-family homes, it's $50 per month, and non-single family, it's $10 per day. Just wanted to, we didn't want to put anything in a letter if it's not going to be enforced, and is that something we should include in a letter to any
Well-
outstanding property owners, or?
I've got one that goes along with that. They showed up to do mine the one day,
Yep,
but my access is behind my water softener. And, to do that, they'd have to unhook the water softener.
right,
So they're like, well, we're gonna have to find a plumber, and the one guy I was talking to, he goes, well, we've run into 15, 20 of these.
yep,
So it's like they'd almost have to be running around all day with a plumber, a little bit ahead of them and behind them to get
For-
some of them done.
yeah, there's been a fair amount that have run into an issue like that, or the only access to the pipe is behind a sheetrock wall or something like that, and those we're just gonna have to, probably televise from the trench during construction without, doing some more intrusive way to get at the pipe. But the ones we can, the more we can get ahead of time, the better. Because we are finding more than we anticipated of things that are similar to Phase 1, where there's a service running down a block. And it makes no sense why that service is connected to the particular main it is, but it is. So we're trying to, the more of that we can know before it goes out to bid, the better. So, and it gives the people, if we're able to get the televising done, like you mentioned last time, there's no benefit to push it off, because it will get televised. And then, if the service is in violation, they're gonna get the violation notice either way. It'd be better to know sooner than later, because they're still given the time.
Do we have any idea how many are still outstanding?
I was just gonna ask that.
That they haven't run into an issue like mine, it's just like people that they just can't get into the house, or nobody will schedule it.
46 that haven't scheduled anything.
That haven't contacted at all.
Right. So we sent a couple different letters with Empire's contact information, and the city was able to provide some contact information for the people, and Empire reached out to those that they had information for. But yeah, so it's 46 outstanding that haven't either responded or reached out to Empire after being notified.
That's quite a few.
Out of about 100?
It's a matter of that we want to put verbiage in a letter that we're going to stand up and say, either if we find a problem, then we find a problem. Then
Right.
that's dealt with on a whole different scale. It's the fact that there's no communication and coming back and not allowing them in, to get people to move. You want to put strong verbiage in a letter, but if it's not going to be enforced, then, we have to, it has to get televised one way or the other.
And can they do this at any time of the year?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I'm just thinking, do we use,
yeah. So that they're, as they're doing it, they're using their locating equipment and marking on the surface, and then our surveyors go out, and that's how we get the actual location of the service into the plans, and that's how the contractor knows where to go dig and find it. So once you get into winter, and if there's a foot of snow, they mark it. We're not able to get a survey crew out there for 2 days. It may have melted or snowed more or something. So it would be good to get it before too much snow.
I think you send a letter out and put the verbiage in it, and stand behind it.
and when do we put your cutoff at? So you send a letter out this week, do we give them, because we're starting to get into that tricky weather time, which is part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You give people 2 weeks to respond, and then you,
You know what, hang on just
can
a
we,
second.
should we
Hang on
take
just
care
a
of
second.
Blagans?
Hang on just a second.
Oh,
Blagan, are you guys okay if we finish with him before we do, since I don't
Sorry, I
see
didn't-
anybody here objecting to you anyway? Is that okay? Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
yeah, I mean, I think a couple weeks to get something scheduled, and then hopefully it's all scheduled within, maybe there's verbiage
Yeah,
in
if the
there.
weather cancels for whatever reason, you're not gonna enforce the letter anyway. Who's the
Yeah.
enforcement official on that particular fee? Is that Public Works or is it administrator?
Both. Yeah.
Both?
It would, Public Works
So-
would do the inspection portion of it. We'd work,
I mean, it's.
we'll work together on it. The idea is to get people who
Yeah.
just aren't responding to
Right.
respond.
Just to
That's what it comes
reschedule it.
down to.
I'd say use your judgment. I mean, you guys know who's the hardest one to get a hold of, or who's the continuous non-response, and apply the letter as necessary.
Okay. I guess my suggestion, and I think, I don't know if you can speak up too, Shane, is we should put the verbiage in it, and we can then reach out to people and try to get into it. And if we aren't getting access to it, we're gonna have to start enforcing some of it. And there's no intention, no one wants to do that. We just wanna do what we have to do to move on with Phase 3A.
Get it done.
Anthony has a question in the crowd.
Thanks. How late
You
in
need
the
to come up here,
day,
Anthony.
how late in the day are these appointments being made so that, I know that it can be a conflict with work.
Yep.
So that may be part of the issue, is that folks aren't home from work, and if you're not doing it in the evenings, it's kind of difficult. They'd have to take a day off of work.
Sure. I haven't heard from Empire. I guess if they're having issue with people even contacting them at all. Not that they can't agree on a time. But I guess I haven't heard for sure. Maybe you, Andy, do you know if they we won't do it after 6 or anything like that?
When they were here for the entire week, they would do it any time of day.
Okay.
Now, when they're looking at just like a day at a time, I'm not sure if they're that flexible.
That's understandable.
Talking to Rick with Empire, it sounds like they want to just try to get as many as they can done while they're in town. They just don't want to come here for 1 or 2 and then have to pay the
Yeah.
travel time back.
Right.
I know the ordinance states for, that about the access times. I think it's from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. is the access times.
Oh, okay.
Supposed to allow reasonable access during those times if requested, so.
Okay. We'll print out a copy of the ordinance actually and just include it in there.
Yeah. I mean, if they want to do it later and it works better for the homeowner later, you know,
Yeah, I think Empire would,
if Empire's fine
Do
with
it.
it, I mean,
yeah. But, yeah, our understanding is that hasn't been an issue, that it's, well, I can only do it after 8 PM, and the Empire says, no, it doesn't work. It's that they just aren't getting any response, yeah. Did you? Okay. So, I think that's it for me.
I would just say work with Chris to get the letter out and
Yep.
Did we do the resolution?
No, you need to,
59, 58? I don't think we did that.
we did not
58, 59 need to be.
separate or,
you
well, I'll
could-
make a motion to approve resolution 2018-58 calling for the hearing on the improvement.
I'll second it.
First and second, any discussion?
That was for the 13th and
That was for the
26,
26th of November.
6:45.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then make a motion to approve resolution 2018-59 ordering the preparation of a report on the improvement.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good night.
Thank you, Blagans, for allowing him to do that. We'll go to the public hearing. Anybody from the public like to talk about the Blagans variance? It doesn't seem like we have anybody worried about that. Thank you for coming.
Yep, okay. Is that it?
Thank you for building. I'd make a motion to approve the variance request.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
Start
guys.
building.
Thank you.
They already built it. It's
Okay, you want to do department heads?
I'll go first.
What was that?
I just want to talk a little bit tonight about the surveys that went out and some of the results. We handed out 850 of them, and I didn't really think it was that good, but according to UCAP, it is very good. We got close to 220 of them back. And we had, I think it was 180 of them were signed with the names and everything on them. There was close to, I think it was 90 that were eligible for a small cities, the loan within the grant. And so that's very good when you've got that many people around town. Now, there's a couple things going on. We haven't got the grant yet, but the member of UCAP, that Jeff Gladys, gave me a percentage once I pried it out of him, and he thinks there's a good chance we'll either get it this time or the next time for sure. And then he's already picked a couple of the areas. I don't really want to go into what areas, because you can only pick 2 areas of town to put these in. It has to be a certain number of blocks. So we're trying to figure out what would be the best way of how many would be the most people in an area that are eligible that can get a grant or a loan like this. And again, it was it was an 80-10-10 grant. And what that means, and I didn't know this all the way up to about a month ago, is 10% of that you would need to pay back to the city. 10% of that loan you would have to come up with it up front, and then the other 80% would be a grant where for 10 years, if you're in that house, it'll go down to 90, down to 80, down to 70, all the way down to 0 if you're in there for 10 years. So a $20,000 loan, you could get $16,000 of it forgiven. So it's a very good loan. Very good loan. And we have a lot of people that checked the box that wanted it. So I just wanted to thank everybody in the city for actually sending those in, or that many of them in. Jeff Gladys said that along with the number of responses that we got back, and then also what this EDA has in their CDBG fund and their revolving loan fund, makes the whole process look pretty good. So any questions on that or anything else? for me tonight.
Sounds good.
I told
When,
you.
when will Jeff know anything?
You know what, that's going into the second round, you know, we gotta get into the second round, and then there's more applications that come along with that, and that's another thing, the grant will all be written up, and that'll all come right out of that CDBG fund, so the EDA doesn't have to come up with anything.
And his first round has to be in like middle of November, was it?
Yeah, it was sometime in November, and then they'll see, I think it was in the first part of the new year is when you'd have to see if the second round would go through.
Okay.
So he was pretty confident. And we had a nice day to hand out the other 500 letters. It was 90 degrees that day. So it was, we haven't seen that 90 for a long time, so. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Tamara, would you like to go? Oh, I'd love to. So October, we started our Sunday hours from 11 to 6. I ordered a couple big beer a couple signs from the beer companies to hang outside the store that says open Sundays. The first one was okay. The second one, it snowed that time. So it was a little slow, but that's a good time for the employees to be able to do some extra cleaning and make sure that the coolers and stuff are filled. The credit card machine was a big complaint from customers, so I switched us from the phone line to the internet, which speeds things up tremendously. On Wednesday the 10th, I was invited to a small group meeting to discuss different things that happen within stores. It was a very good meeting, very helpful, listening to different stores and things that they've had happen in their stores and how they deal with it. Last Thursday, I was at the Minnesota Municipal Bar Association regional meeting in Marshall. That was a very good meeting. Talked about goals, legislative overview, group buying, staffing strategies, and then discussed individual issues and how that got handled amongst some of the other people having their own inputs in there. After the meeting, Mike Friesen from up by Detroit Lakes came down to the store, talked and discussed things about the store and training on the computer. Then we met with Chris for a few hours, and then went back to the store till about 11 o'clock that night, and then back there again at 8:30, a little after 8:30 on Friday morning. He knew of a gentleman that knew that our computer programming or our point-of-sale purchasing backwards and forwards. So we had Paul Zabinski from Zabinski Business Solutions come in for a few hours, help clean up some of the software from like way back and help speed up the computer and figure out some reports and stuff like that that we were questioning or wanting to be able to print out. So they were both very helpful. Mike was awesome, and it's like all free of charge for him to come down for us because it's all part of the MMBA. Sunday I went to another seminar. We talked about with different vendors about different product and businesses, networked with other store managers. I feel anytime we can go to some of these events, especially the ones that don't cost us any money to go, I think are very helpful. And then this month we are still, until the end of the month, doing the donations and stuff with the correlation with Miller to the Minute Animal Rescue promotion. So that's about it in our world for a while. Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Go, Shane, go.
Shane, which
My
one do you want
turn.
to go next?
But right now, we're just trying to close up as much little projects as we can before winter. In addition to the report, we did get the rest of the millings hauled on Friday. We did had one truck break down, so it didn't work quite as well as we wanted it to, but so everything's there for that airport on the west side of the hangar there. Hopefully we can get started on that if the weather cooperates this week. And there's a little roof on the back of the liquor store we're gonna re-shingle. Curb's mostly done over on the alley over here. We're hoping to get some asphalt tomorrow, but I don't know if it's the mix that we want, so just depends on how that goes with the asphalt plant. So it's kind of where everything's at. winterizing, we're gonna leave Swift Lake open probably for another week or two. All the standpipes are gonna get shut off at the campsites, but we kind of try to leave that open because it is nearly full yet out there, so with the contractors, the road crews, but as soon as the weather turns, they'll probably all be disappearing pretty quick too, so. Any questions, concerns?
So Paul's back to work?
Part-time, yep.
Good.
How's he doing?
Good,
And he's getting a lot done.
yeah. We needed it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, a bunch of meetings that I had going on, some are the common ones that happen all the time, liquor store committee, EDA meeting. League of Minnesota Cities ambassador was in town, I met with him for quite a while and went over some things. That's really a good program they have where they send them in and it's just a one-on-one conversation about what's going on and suggestive, and then it always turns into 2 or 3 different emails and phone calls from different people at the league after that happens. So it's a free service we get from the league, and it's fantastic. Met with Lutheran Social Services on a few things. We have a rep in town now that's doing some stuff, so trying to work with them, trying to allow them to use some of the city spaces and stuff to get that done since it's for residents. I did have a class, first was the FEMA and HSEM Public Assistance Brief. That's, essentially that's the portion where we're going to see some of the assistance that will come to the city. When you talk about individual assistance, that's for the individual homeowner. Public assistance, you know, the misconception sometimes is that's to the homeowner. Public assistance is the relief for the city, the money that we spent and things like that. Hopefully we get enough to pay back that loan and cover our other expenses. Senior officials hazardous preparedness workshop up at Sourcewell. That was some really good stuff. The morning was mostly about what we did on the flood, but the afternoon was really good about recovery and things like that, and how to react to certain things, and I got some really good information out of that. That was put on by FEMA directly. So, Planning Commission, Liquor Store Employee Meeting, Tracy Active Living Meeting, talked about a couple of things. That wasn't a full-blown meeting for the committee because they couldn't get the whole committee together, but I met with a couple of the key people on it. Tracy Area Animal Rescue came and talked to me as well, and then we had a pretty in-depth construction meeting today where we proposed a few things. They're going to repair a dip that was in the. Shane had talked to him about getting it basically covered. It was a warranty type of thing, so there's a dip in the runway, things like that. So working on budget to amend the presentation and the levy reduction. Our Minlars October 1st, the system rollover happened, and that went very smoothly. That's working well. Flood, continuing to work with some IA stuff. Some of that's still pouring in. It's getting a little bit slower on the individual resident stuff, and now we're deep into the public assistance portion. And they do that strategically so that you can finish with your residents and then come back to the city. Upcoming event next week, you have League of Minnesota Cities regional meeting in Marshall. Banyan training for office staff. I'm sending some tomorrow, myself included, and then next Tuesday. To do it in 2 batches so we can still staff the offices, but I think that was something that is definitely going to be very beneficial for all of the staff. And Diane has been chugging away at the 2018 election, which is right around the corner. So that's about it. Any questions? Val couldn't be here tonight. She had something going on for the library. She said if there was any questions, we can relay them back to her. She runs a tight ship over there. It just goes smooth.
I just, so So this Modern Woodman youth group that I'm associated with, we just bought the city $497 worth of books.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So her and I and the kids got to pick out the books. You know, she made a list of ones that she wanted, and the kids got to pick them out. So I think it's exciting for them because they had a good time picking them out anyway. So I figured I'll just do that again next year too. I just wait till the end, you know, because at the end you have to spend all this money that you didn't spend. So I just spend it all over there. Should we move on to the liquor store committee application?
Sis Merriman talked to me about asking if we were looking for any members on the liquor committee. She's pretty passionate about helping out over there and has some good ideas. And we had talked as a liquor store committee whether we should continue to meet or not, or at what kind of time frame that we should meet. I think with the delicacy or it's a delicate nature with the liquor store, you know, with the numbers that have happened over the past years and the potential sale that just happened and things. I do think the liquor store committee, in my personal opinion, is still important. I don't know if we need to meet monthly if that committee wanted to or not still. That was kind of something. We have a meeting November 5th where we're going to discuss how we meet after that, but I still think it's a very viable committee that we need to keep on top of that liquor store and have that expertise that's a part of that committee.
I don't think that would hurt either,
And
until we get it back on its feet.
I think she would be a good addition from just my
She would be.
personal dealings with her, but that's up to you guys.
I think she would be.
I remember when they started the liquor committee, it was to be called on whenever the manager was having issues and just to get some different perspective. And it's gotten more successful over the last 12 months than it did for the first umpteen years that I was involved in it. Sis is very passionate about it. I think she'd be a good fit. She's got enough business. There's no hard and fast rule about the size or the makeup of the committee that I'm aware of, so
Only the rules you make.
Yep.
So,
I say put her on.
I say put her on. Should we have a vote?
I say put her on, but I want to say if there's other people out there, that's the only thing is people saying, I didn't know there was an option to be on there. I would have loved to have been on the liquor store committee. But since we're saying right now, there's not a cap, you know, we might need to look at a cap if all of a sudden we get, you know, a lot of volunteers. But you know what, if we get that many volunteers, I'll be happy
Yep.
to deal with that consequence.
At
So,
least they're passionate about it then.
yeah. So with that being said, no, I will make the motion to have Sis added on to the liquor store committee.
I'll second it.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The finance clerk job?
So I sent you guys all the job description for the finance clerk. In hiring that position again, I was not able to find that duty description. So myself and Shane sat down and we kind of tailored one specific to what those job duties were. That was the copy that you guys got. I would like the council's guidance if you would like. The proper way to do any changes to a duty position is for the council to approve it. Then I'll send it to the union rep, have the union rep look it over, and then it can be adopted.
I thought it was pretty thorough.
I didn't.
I'd make a motion to approve it.
I'd second it.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I'll get that to
It
the
keeps going
union.
here.
Do you want to re-review it after the union, or do you want me to just put it in place if the union takes it over?
I think you can just put it in place.
Okay.
They can make any big changes to it anyway, so.
No, but if they do, then I'll re-present it to you. But if they accept it as a written, I'll place it into our files. C, that's the MPC waiver request from the Lions Soup Supper. It's a $25 fee for using the MPC building. they donate all the proceeds from what they make, and they asked for the fee to be waived.
I think it sounds like a good idea.
I've done it in the past. I'd make a motion to approve their waiver request for the MPC fees.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Agreement of assessment and waiver of irregulatively.
So this is similar to what we had on the other residents that had to relocate their water line. She's just asking to have her reroute on a special assessment on her taxes. So, same terms, same everything, just different amount, so. For vote.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Greenwood?
Greenwood Nursery is the flower pots and such. Last year, I wasn't a part of it, obviously, so my understanding is that they were going to try and put baskets along Highway 14. Excel Energy put in new poles, said you cannot put them on there, couldn't put the brackets on, so that kind of got scrubbed for that year. They're reapproaching us with, it would be $4,560 for baskets by the light poles, 24 of them in total, going up and down 14. I'm not sure of the orientation, if there's 24 light poles there, or if they'd every other, or skip every third, or what 24 brings.
So Excel came
Out
back
there.
and said it's okay now, or?
No, now what they want to do is they want to put a cement pad on the ground next to it, a previously poured cement pad, so they're not going to be doing concrete work. So they'd like to put a pad in front of it, and they'll provide the container, put the containers out there, and then, but they do want, if it's something the city wants to do, they would like a 5-year commitment, because they're going to spend $2,800 to buy the containers. So they don't want to do it and then it go away after a year. So they would ask if it's something you want done.
So who's putting the cement pads in?
They'll
what I
take,
was just
they'll
thinking.
take care of the pads and
Greenwood
the,
is?
yep, and the containers and all of the maintenance. And that's the portion of it that is the $4,560 for the maintenance, the watering, and the plants themselves, everything ongoing. And then that would be per year for 5 years is what they would request.
So is that pad in the cost of all that? So I mean, essentially
Yeah,
they're
they're-
paying for that pad?
It's just a
They're
paver the way it sounds,
providing
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a paver. It's a, you buy it at Menards and put it in your garden or whatever. But before you, what we are paying now, and if we were to repeat the services that we have, that's the $65.55 that they have on there. That did increase by $500. I think their hourly rate for watering them, the care went up $10 per hour, and our quantity of the containers based on the city went from 6 to 8. And keep in mind, this is proposed for 2019. So,
Did they have the big pot that was out in front here this
yes.
summer? So are those the size they're talking about putting out on 14? Do you know?
Similar. In fact, he said we bought those pots, and that's why he knew the price of them. So I wouldn't hold him to it. It has to be exactly like
I remember that from last year, that he bought them just because he figured at some point in time he'd be able to do it. So I was just hoping that they were like that size, so.
This year for the pots in the downtown area, we paid, and the two up front here, we paid $6,055 to have them watered, maintained, and then the cost of the plants themselves as well. With this proposal on 14 and the increased amount downtown, it would be $11,115.
Have you put that number in the budget at all, just to see if it makes any vast difference?
Currently, the number that I budgeted for in the last budget that you guys received was 6,055. I kept it the same number as last year, just because I did not have this estimate.
What does $5,000 do? Do you know roughly?
0.5%, basically. It's, I personally received a lot of blowback last year about trying to do Highway 14, and I'd like, Highway 14 definitely needs to be cleaned up, and that's the front porch of the community now. But when we have our residents at about 180% of the tax capacity of their property already, do we really want to put flowers out in Highway 14? Or rethink that, the downtown ones. When that program started, it was the businesses that wanted it, and the businesses were gonna pay for all of it, and the city volunteered to water it, and now we're paying somebody to water it. It went from a $2,000 project to a $6,000 project, and only half of the number of poles are covered now, so I don't know, I think that's a want versus a need in a budgeting profile, but.
I guess I look at it as far as our priorities right now. I think we need to look at beautifying the city, but I don't know if right now is the time to spend $11,000 on the flowers versus looking at what we can do for buildings and people cleaning up their properties and beautifying the city that way first. I mean, this is quite a chunk
It's a, well,
of money.
personally,
I pass information.
I wish we didn't have so many expenses right now going on with the city and, with the whole sewer things and the ponds. I mean, all that when I look at how we need to prioritize how we spend the money and watch what we do for taxes, because we're looking at, okay, what do we have to do with water rates and stuff like that, so we can be paying back this money that we're getting, that I don't know if flowers right now is where I would put our priority.
Shane, do you know how long they've been doing the baskets downtown? Has that,
2009, 10?
so currently
When the
there's
streetlights got put up the very next summer, they started doing the baskets, and that was all driven by the businesses.
Probably 09, I think.
so does the city pay to water the businesses' flowers?
Yep.
It's assessed to us, we get a bill for that.
You don't get assessed for that.
We
It's,
get a bill for that for plants.
Just for the plants
you get
themselves.
billed for a plant,
Yeah.
the watering.
yeah, if you pick a plant, you actually pay for that plant. The
Right.
watering and care of that plant, the city pays for.
So why are the businesses not watering their own?
Well, to try to get up there, I suppose, I mean, to try to water
All
the
baskets.
planter
But
up,
I'm
yeah.
talking like
It's
the
not
planters
anything
and-
Public Works is interested in doing either.
No.
It's,
No.
they've
And it didn't
got a
work
system and
well
they've
with the
got
city
it down, but
volunteering
it's,
for it.
They all died.
They all died
No,
right
I'm not
away.
talking about up there. I mean, they don't water the pots though, do
Yes.
they?
No, they do.
Down below?
Yep, all of them. They water and fertilize them through the whole season. I mean, it's not a bad price considering what you're getting, but is it money that we need to spend right now for that stuff? That's the question.
well, and I don't think this is a one-size-fit-all thing either. If you want to make any changes, or if you want to, say you didn't want to do the Highway 14 and you wanted to keep doing the baskets that we did the year before, that's definitely an option too. And that was budgeted it was budgeted only $500 short, meaning we'd have to add 500 to keep watering the same. Or we could make changes and have them represent a proposal as well. Obviously, we have time on this,
But I'm wondering if you put pots on the ground, if would have been as effective as if you would have hung them On the
The
highway.
pots on the ground for the highway, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't think they're good.
Well,
No.
another thing you almost have to consider is the property owners that, I mean, are we gonna have to go and ask permission to put these pots in their property as well? I realize we
Somebody
have
would
right
have.
away,
Probably are
but
gonna have to.
I think right away is defined as for the needs, not,
And then depending upon the size, there's state setback requirements you're gonna have to deal with.
I don't know how picky they'd be with that, but,
Yeah. Just depends upon who you get drives by and sees them that day.
Well, if they get too big for you to see beyond them, that's another issue. You're growing them up. I understand where you guys are coming from. I think it'd be pretty, but, and it would be a nice greeting card, but it's probably not something we can afford right now.
be honest with you, I think, you know, from a financial standpoint, we'd be better off buying the pots and finding a volunteer organization willing to take it over. You know, not saying that we can find one, but that's, you know, if that's the kind of thing the city wants
And we've
and
got-
the residents want, there should be 10 residents that are willing to make a schedule, water them, do those kind of things, because they don't want us to, we could have 50 people work for Public Works if we wanted to sweep every sidewalk and do all that too. Some of it.
No, and I think Mary Ann Ankern's doing a good job, a really good job
They are
with
doing an
with the
awesome
flower
job.
beds along
Oh,
Highway
over here?
14.
Yeah, if you could get
And
them to be in charge of
yeah, I
this,
mean,
it'd be
The
perfect.
volunteers have stepped up and are taking care of a lot of the flower beds that belong to the city. I mean, we've got everybody used to the pots downtown, they're in the budget. And this is the first time in a long time it was actually brought to the council, not just, it was in the budget and nobody looked, you know, somebody had looked for it, and I really appreciate that. My personal feeling on this is continue doing the downtown. Let's let Highway 14 go until we can figure out where we're gonna get the money from. That's where I think we need to do it from, but I don't know.
Does it make sense to keep the downtown and not do the 14 though? I mean, wouldn't you rather do 14 than downtown? Or no?
Well, like we said, there's issues with
Right.
14, like right, you know, the right of way and all that stuff, so.
14 would require a 5-year commitment.
5-year commitment.
Yeah,
Downtown, we
do
don't
that
have
right
a
now.
commitment now, so.
And people are used to it in downtown. There's a lot of compliments. Wish they get some more business participation, but it is what it is.
The businesses pay to plant their pots, right? Just not water it.
Right.
Jeff, you're stirring over there. You got something?
I'd be a little worried that they would get, something would happen to them on the ground.
On 14, yep. I don't think that's a good
Either disappearing
idea.
or getting kicked over, or it's bad. But also, Highway 14 is your thoroughfare through town. You want everybody to see something like that in town.
Right.
But it's
That's
not
why-
just flowers, it's everything. It's some of the businesses need to get it cleaned up also.
That's why I think the impact would have been a lot nicer if they would have been hanging versus sitting on the ground.
Right.
But I don't understand why businesses can't water their own pots. Not the hanging ones, but the pots. I did my business, I watered my own plants.
You're special, though.
I don't think we're
I'm
being
just
charged
saying.
that much for watering their pots. I think it has to
$95.
do more with the hanging ones
The
because
hanging ones that they're just doing the rest because they're out there.
the logistics to water those hanging ones is actually, I mean,
You're
they're
getting-
literally driving with this big wand and holding it up and.
Okay, but wait a second though. How many pots are downtown? So if it says 61 between the both of them, that means there's like, they're
8 of them were purchased by the city.
the hanging baskets.
Right. And there's up to 61 other ones if they get sold. If they don't get sold, like last year they said they only had 20 other ones that,
But that's 41. What do you mean there's not that many? At $95 a piece? That's a lot of
to
money.
water for the entire summer.
I think that's hours. They're
No.
planning 61 hours, billed at $95 an hour.
That could be, yeah, I don't
Are
know.
you sure it's ours?
That's how I saw it anyways, hours.
That's the care for the plant is paid for by the city, businesses, and individuals.
I'm looking at our bill here that we had from last year. Labor to water, fertilize, and hanging baskets, 24 containers around city beautification paid for. It just says 61 each, $85. So it's either $85 a piece. So yeah, maybe there's 61 of them.
I didn't count them all last year, but I knew there was a lot more vacant poles than there were the year prior.
So is this set in stone, or if businesses don't buy their plants, does the price go down because there's not as many for them to water?
Well, agreements go both ways. And I think that from a financial standpoint, from us planning on a budget, we should say, this is what we're willing to do. And, you know, they want the business and they want the pots. They're aggressive. They'll get out there and get the pots.
Well, I think we just need some more clarity. It's like, is it, you know, for 61 pots, is it,
Sure.
you know, how many pots did they do this last year? What was our cost? And then, you know, if they're gonna do the exact same thing next year, then we know what we're playing with for sure. Is it only 35 pots, or, you know, what's the exact number we're putting out that we're paying for?
Well, I think part of their sales pitch is that they want to go ask the businesses
Well, I'm just
if
wondering.
the city
if we
will
can
commit
count
to watering them so that they can
Going out
get a
by the
business
school?
to sponsor one.
Because there were pots hanging out there going out.
Those
towards
are
Elmwood.
his.
Those are his?
Those are his. And that's where he came up with the proposal last year about them, because he just found them and put them out. And that got him a lot of attention.
I would just want more clarity on it.
Can I ask a question, Chris? I was wondering,
You want to come up?
can
Thank
ask
you.
the mayor.
I was watching this on TV and I'm just curious, does the chamber have anything of interest with this? Has anybody asked the Chamber of Commerce if they'd like to pay 30% of the cost or 40, 50% of the cost? Because it goes back to the businesses, it helps their frontage. When I had the Valentine Inn, Sis and I took care of our own decorating. I mean, it was an expense. I'm just wondering if that's something that should be tabled and approach the chamber and ask them.
The chamber
their
used to
thoughts
be
are.
involved. I don't know what they've been the last few years on this particular.
Yeah, I don't know how the costs are broke up, and maybe they're getting paid something already through there.
Back to your
Yeah,
question, more information.
I would say let's table it and just get more information about exactly how many pots, how many are in the air, how many are on the ground, exactly how many would be out on 14 if that's the route we decide to go. How many businesses actually paid for them last year? Just so we have it all laid out, and then like you said, then we can approach the chamber and go, hey,
I mean, I can tell you as a citizen, I'd like to see the city decorated, but I don't think it should just be the taxpayer paying for it.
Share the burden.
Share the burden.
I've heard a lot of
And I
that.
think the businesses
Yes.
should pay more on themselves. But that's just my opinion.
So that's all I had to say.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
yeah, let's just, I make a motion that we table it until we get more information.
Second.
Okay.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tracy Watershed Management Board.
I'm going to change the word board to committee, if we could. I'd like to set up and I know you were a part of this when we met with Congressman Peterson. What I'd like to, there's some problems, there's multiple overlaying problems with why we've got water in Tracy, inside the downtown. There's some ditches that need to be cleaned out, some culverts that need to be upsized, some ditches on the exit end of it that need to be cleaned out, and there's this, and Shane's got such a finger on the pulse on all that stuff, but there is a lot of tiles from farms that are coming towards town, which I get it, they have to do that, that's just the way it is, but that's bringing a new source of water over the years to town. And I think all of these things that haven't happened are starting to stack up and basically oversaturate downtown Tracy. I spoke with both HESM, the Homeland Security Emergency Management, the mitigation team, talking to them about some of the mitigation efforts we're looking at. And one of the solutions we came up with was to have a DNR hydrologist come in and develop a plan with us for Tracy. I'd like to recruit, ask anybody that, with council's permission, and if you set up this committee, recruit anybody that has expertise in this field or has, you know, the right opinions or such in that, so that we can divert this water around Tracy, basically the water coming in from the south, the east, and a little bit from the north, or I'm sorry, the west, and a little bit from the northwest, and divert that the right way out of Tracy. That's not the only problem that's causing basements to flood, but it's definitely one of the problems. And if we don't, now is an opportune time because of mitigation funding that's available, and just, it's fresh in everybody's mind. I'd like to accomplish it with very little money if we can, you know, using a lot of these mitigation funds and such. And that's where we got to bring in the DNR. I do have a meeting with the hydrologist next Wednesday, and there's a couple key people that have already voiced their opinions on this. And I'd like to turn that into a committee to get that expertise that we need on it.
You have a number of people you want or looking for?
I would say 7 to 9. Something like that at the most.
Would it be that people would apply like they do for the other committees?
Yeah, I would recruit those that have already talked to me about it, and then welcome anybody from the public to put it, and then the council can appoint who they see fit on it. Sooner the better. I would like to get going on it because of the fact that anything that we can get accomplished over this winter for funding sources through mitigation, every time there's a disaster, mitigation funds follows it. And you gotta have your hand out if you want it. And if you want some of that funding, they want that expertise. And that's, again, why I reached out to the hydrologist on it. Now, he's not gonna do the work. That's not what they do. They won't just come in and say, okay, this is what you need. He wants us, you know, again, like I said, Shane has such an expertise on even just alone from the flood where water was standing that day is an unbelievable amount of knowledge for moving that stuff around. And then the days after lingering, where did that stuff go? The solar fields is a perfect example. They're putting those in and burying equipment out there, and everybody thought that they drove and we'll just put this rumor right to bed right now. Everybody thought they drove a pylon through the culvert or through the tile line and collapsed it, and that's what was causing everything to flood. And they went over to the intake on it, and it's plugged with weeds and branches and everything else. And these are the things that we need to get in front of and come up with a master plan for getting water out of Tracy.
I think it sounds like a great idea.
Good idea.
Okay. And I would, again, encourage people to apply. The application is online on the website. And if anybody doesn't have access to it, come to my office. One of us will give them a copy of that application. And do you want to set a timeline for appointing that board? Next meeting, or is that too soon?
Well, I was going to say, you said you're having a meeting next Wednesday with the hydrologist?
Correct. And a few people that are, public works personnel, and I wanted Jeff from EDA as far as the standpoint of it, future expansion and stuff. This is the preliminary. Just, he wants to come, he wants to know where we had problems, he wants to come and look at that stuff. That wouldn't necessarily, I'm not trying to get the board set up by next Wednesday, or the committee, I should say.
I would say you're probably gonna need at least a month, don't you think?
Well, I would say we put it out there that it closes on the 12th and we see what we get. So everybody that wants to apply, because then if all of a sudden we have 16 people apply,
Well, yeah, we don't have to go on.
we can go through and we're done and you've got your committee and you're off and running.
Yeah.
So, and if we only get 2, well then it's
Then we'll go
start
from
back
there.
over again.
Okay.
So I'd make that motion that we open the applications until November 12th at 1 PM. And then they're ready for, we can look at them on the 13th.
No, on the 12th.
Can we say the 13th, because that's when the meeting is?
Oh, 13th at 1 PM then, sorry.
Nobody will be here the 12th to look at it.
Ah, sorry.
Wait,
Jeez, I made a mistake.
Really?
do,
Second.
first and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2018-55, MnDOT agreement number 1032556, adjustment frame and ring casting.
So what this is, to be real simple, is
Simpler than what it said.
they're starting a repaving project from pretty much the east side of 4th Street East, heading east towards Revere. And there's one manhole in that area that has to be adjusted, and they have to have an agreement to make that change during their project, so.
That's all at their cost.
That's all, and it's at our cost, so.
It's our responsibility to raise
Right.
our infrastructure to meet their road level.
But they'll do it, but we pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve 281555.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Should I do my usual?
Yes, you should.
Make a motion to approve the municipal accounts payable without Breakthrough Beverage and the municipal accounts receivable.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable with Breakthrough Beverage and the library board minutes.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any unfinished business that anybody knows of? Any new business? Any mayor council communication?
Had one, probably goes along with what you were talking about with your committee, Chris. A resident out Greentown by the park had some questions today about, it's not really a ditch that runs through there, but it's a natural drain field that runs through there and splits the park. Whenever there's water in there, they have water in their basement. And they wanted to know if there was any plans or what they could do to correct that. But I think I can go back and say that this watershed committee will come up with something somewhere along the line to help that out, if that's a safe enough answer for them.
You know, and not to go back on that, but that's one thing we need to know too, is we need to know where water was standing and things like that. There obviously are some things we could miss too, so if that resident wants to either go through you or contact me directly, I'll take that information down and relay that to the committee when it comes time, so that essentially what we need to do is we need to have all the information before we start spending large amount of money.
Yep.
Even if it's not ours, it's still gonna be a lot of money. It's ours in the long run. We pay federal taxes too.
We're all paying for it, so that's the only thing I had.
Is that on the same side of the, let's say, the square block as the ditch?
Yeah, it's where, this is the house just to the east of that ditch area there that runs through that little park they just put in.
Okay,
Yeah, right
Okay.
across from south side of Greenwood Avenue there.
okay, just so we kinda know
Yeah.
there, so.
Okay.
The other concern with that, while I'm thinking about it, was when that water is standing there, she thinks it's kind of a hazard for the little ones running around in the park. They could get hurt or drown or whatever, so need a safety thing for your committee's information, so. I'll shut up.
Do you want to adjourn?
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.